Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. This is the meeting for the Human and Community Services Committee for June 16th, 2025. My name is Deb Poland. I am the town councilor that chairs this committee. We also have with us this evening town council members who are members of this committee, Mary Fay and Barry Walters. We also have Mayor Cantor and Councilor Tiffany McGinnis with us this evening, Town Manager Rick Ledwith, Library Director Laura Ermsher, our Director of Community and Leisure Services, Helen Rubino Turco, and we also have a guest with us this evening, Bill Gleason. So thanks everybody for joining us. I'm going to go right over to the business items. So business item 2A, looking for approval of the minutes of the May 19th meeting. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Walters. And a second, perhaps Councilor Fay? And if not, I will second it. Is there any discussion on the minutes? And okay, I count those as approved. And we will move over to business item 2B, a resolution appropriating cannabis tax revenue to summer youth employment. And I'll turn this over to Town Manager Rick Ledwith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. Great to see everyone. First up, we do have a resolution appropriating $7,000 of cannabis funds to support the Summer Youth Employment and Learning Program. And through you, Madam Chair, I'll turn it over to our Director of Leisure and Social Services, Helen Rubino Turco, who can provide a little bit more detail on this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. We received a request through our Social Services Department to provide $7,000 from the cannabis dispensary tax funds to the Bridge Family Center. They are facilitating the Summer Youth Employment Program. This is a program that is provided at the state level, and in our municipality, it is administered by the Bridge. It's a wonderful program for Connecticut youth between the ages of 14 and 24 with career exploration opportunities and paid work experience during the summer. So we have utilized this at our Veterans Memorial Skating Rink and other locations, and it's worked very well. So this request is to help support some of the extra costs that are related to administering this program, transportation, some other things like supplies and lunches, as well as some small amount of administrative support. As you know, this tax revenue that we receive can help if it's directed towards local and community organizations. It can really help with some of these programs that are targeted for youth. So this fits right in with the eligible use of the cannabis tax revenue.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Are there questions? Go to committee members first and then other members of the council. I have a question, actually. So I just want to clarify. So the Bridge is getting state funding for this state-funded summer youth employment program, and these funds would just supplement what the state is providing. Do we know how many youth in West Hartford will be served by the program overall this summer?
That is a great question. I do not know the total number. The funding is provided by Capital Workforce Partners, as you probably know. But I don't know exactly how many. I can find out for you. It's a great question.
That would be great. Thank you. All right. And I would agree that this is an appropriate use of the cannabis funds as dictated by state law, what we're allowed to use the funds for. Part of that is to support youth development and education, community services. So would the next step be, without objection, we would put this on the town council agenda for June 24th?
That is correct.
Yes.
Thank you.
Excellent. And is everybody okay with that? If so, excellent. All right. Thank you very much for that. We'll move on to communications. Do we have any communications, Mr. Manager?
Nothing under communications this evening, Madam Chair.
All right. Thank you. And then we'll go to staff reports, and we'll start with leisure and social services.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of quick updates, and then would you like to go to our guest speaker?
Yes, let's do the quick updates first.
Very good. I just wanted to let everybody know that the driving range at Rockledge Golf Course is under construction. They have finished installing the piers. They're beginning to install nets, and they'll soon begin the foundation work. So we're excited about that. The outdoor pools have all passed inspection, and we do expect them all to open this coming Friday. That's at Kennedy, Beachland, and Eisenhower and Fern. The splash pads, as you may remember, opened Memorial Day weekend at Walcott, Fern, Kennedy, and Beachland. Most of our camps, many of our day camps are filled, but we do still have some space available for some weeks at Camp Funtastic. Other camps may have a couple of random spots here and there. But we do have in our leisure services program guide, which you can find on our website, there is a double page that lists all of our brochure, all of our camps, morning, afternoon, and full day. It's displayed by age and by date so that you can clearly see in any given week this summer what camps are available in terms of what we're offering. And then you can go onto Rec Desk with the Rec Desk account, and that's how people register to see if there are spots available. I would say 85% of our camps are full. Some of them are completely full. But as I said, most of the camps have some openings, especially in the Funtastic and in the some of the sports camps that are half day. Those are still available.
Great.
And I also wanted to just give a shout out to our community and our staff for a really successful Celebrate West Hartford. I was looking over some of the numbers that were coming in terms of participants. For the road race, we had more than 1,200. We had 1,240 registrations. So that was up from the previous year, but it was really, really crowded. People still really liked the new route, which goes up Main Street and then across Lawler Road, almost at Asylum Avenue, and then down the Troutbrook Trail. So it really features our new linear park, and people are pretty excited about it. We also had 148 crafters in our arts and crafts show. We did have some weather on Saturday, which leads me to, also thank you to our emergency management support. This was the first time that we'd had a command center set up with coordination between police, fire, leisure services, our Celebrate West Hartford committee, and then other entities. So it was really very special to be involved with that level of emergency management and support from our colleagues in emergency management. So that was really fantastic. We also had a new rides provider, was really popular, and the tent company was fantastic. This is the second year with this tent company. They're very professional. And when we arrived at work, Rick, as town manager can attest, when we arrived at work on Monday, it barely looked like there had been an event with thousands and thousands of people. It was super crowded on Saturday. And I just want to, thank not just our leisure services, but also police, fire, public works, and all the other people that help in the background, building department, IT, risk, you name it. So it was really a very special event. And also this evening, I just want to sorry, social services, the big news there is that we completed our 5-year consolidated plan, which contains our first year annual action plan for our next 5-year cycle. It was a ton of work. It was a really big undertaking to do this 5-year con plan. We had the help of an outside consultant, and Luan Sika and Liz Bazinski and I worked really hard with them. And it's a really fantastic document. We did receive confirmation that our first year funding is in place, slightly less than what we had budgeted for, as you know, but we've made that adjustment. And we are cautiously optimistic that funding will be included in year 2 and in subsequent years. So just wanted to let you know that has been accomplished, and it's we have submitted it, and hopefully we'll get some positive feedback from our local HUD office in the coming months. In my staff report, I also list several programs that are going on in social services, whether it's rent rebate or utility assistance, et cetera. So you can certainly refer to that. I would now like to introduce our guest speaker, who will speak briefly about our tree canopy study. So this is part of a larger effort that involves a tree canopy study and an inventory, and this will help us have an understanding of where we were, where we are, and where we want to go in terms of tree planting. And the inventory section is also really exciting because we'll be learning about what kinds of trees to plant as opposed to just planting all of the same thing. So without further ado, with your permission, Madam Chair, I would like to introduce Bill Gleason, who is a volunteer, extraordinary volunteer for the Tree Action Group. The Tree Action Group represents our urban forestry advisory committee. And Bill has wholeheartedly, with both feet, jumped in as a volunteer. He single-handedly created the Arboretum at Westmore Park. He went out and identified all the trees, labeled all the trees, compiled an amazing website, westmorearboretum.org, that showcases all of the trees, the 130, 140 trees and shrubs that are in the Arboretum. He's also been very involved with the West Harvard Tree Project, which donates free tree seedlings to residents, and has also been integral in reviewing our RFP for the tree canopy study, and then reviewing the actual study that has come in, and hopefully we'll have a final version of that soon. But what we wanted to do this evening was give you the snapshot of what.
So before we do that, thank you so much for that. And before you begin, Mr. Gleason, I just wanted to check in with the committee members and other council members on the call to see if you have any questions or thoughts around the leisure services and social services update we've received so far. Camps, driving range, pools, Celebrate, and the CDBG Consolidated Action Plan.
Madam Chair, I have no questions. I like many people, was at Celebrate on Sunday, and
Yes, Councilor Fay, we can, but I just want to let Mr. Walters get his question out, and then we'll go to you next.
no question. I just wanted to say it was well-run machine, and the improvements that have been made as far as having the command center are duly noted, and are a great thing for all of our large events.
Thank you.
That's all.
Thank you. Ms. Fay? You're kind of in and out, mostly out. You want to try one more time?
So much. I don't Yes. So question I have, I guess, is on the driving range. A or
All right, I think I got your question. Your
Sorry.
audio is very spotty,
Yes.
but I think the question is a nice comment about Celebrate, which Counselor Fay was also at and very much appreciated all the hard work that went into that. And if you have an estimated date of completion for the driving range.
The estimated date for the driving range is still a moving target for us. We
Sorry.
do know that
Yes. Great Celebrate. And when's the driving range completion? So we're not sure, but do we have a target at this point?
as I said, it's still a moving target. We are looking at some point this summer or August timeframe.
Okay, thank you. All right, and Mayor Cantor or Councilor McGinnis, do you have any questions? All right. And I do not as well. I do appreciate the updates. And I know particularly since camps are just getting started, school's out, people are anxiously looking forward to all of the great activities that our town has to offer, camps and pools and all of that. So thanks for all the hard work. And now we're ready to turn it over to Mr. Gleason. Welcome.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, let me see if I can get this share screen. Let's see.
Here we go.
Okay.
We got it. Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, first, thank you, all the members of the council and interested parties for allowing us to present our some of the initial findings of the UTC assessment for the town of West Hartford, covering the time period 2010 through 2023. There are some useful terms. Tree canopy, some you may be familiar with it. It just refers to which portion of a defined area contains large leafy trees greater than 15 feet. Then you have UTC, or an urban tree canopy. These are often used interchangeably, but can lead to a little bit of confusion, but they all essentially refer to the same thing. How many trees are in a certain area? And the data as presented to us by our vendor so far is all available online, and that URL is there to see. Our study, the satellite portion of it, captured data in 2010, July of 2010, and August of 2023. These studies are always done when the trees are in full leaf, so that they capture the full extent of the canopy. And once that data is captured, a huge crunching of data is done by our vendor, and it starts with land classification. They take the data and they break it into whether it's a tree, that's tree canopy, whether it is herbaceous, which is a fancy word for grass and shrubs. Then you get to impervious, which is anything that sheds water. You want to think asphalt, concrete, buildings. And the last is the most confusing of the four major categories, and that is potential planting areas, PPA. That often coexists with the grass and shrub spaces, but it indicates how viable an area is for planting more trees. So the other ones are not of significant consequence for this presentation. Then we take that data and we slice and dice it again. And we use the GIS maps that the town has provided and created over the years to create what we call boundaries or certain categories. And we call them geographies in the forestry business. And it is the town boundary. There is a net, which we'll speak about later. Then I think the rest of them are fairly self-explanatory, and I don't need to go into it. School districts, right of way, etc. But the original data is first broken into, does it contain trees or not? Further broken into ROW, parks, etc. And then the final detail is a micro detail where we can literally tell you how your home, how your property did from 2010 to 2023. And the example that I show there is 45 Middlebrook Road, and that happens to be my residence over by St. Joe's. So before we dive into exactly the results for West Hartford during this period, it's a good idea to take a look at what is a good tree canopy so that we have a reference point to see how West Hartford is doing. In general, American Forests is one of the leaders in this industry, and it recommends that for a suburban town like ourselves, a tree canopy somewhere between 40 and 60% is considered healthy. On the right, you'll see benchmarks ranging from downtown areas that are, of course, very sparse of trees, up to forests, which are densely forested. And again, we're in that third category, right around 50%, falls neatly between the 40 and 60%. And then the last section in the lower right is one of the most important. Tree canopy is a dynamic, changing aspect of all municipalities and communities. And if you are treading water or moving ahead slightly, you're doing very, very well. Most communities tend to be in the second category, where they are losing it at a slow rate. That is cause for concern, all right? When you reach the third category, where you get up to a 14 or 15% level, that is a serious, serious, serious wake-up call. And in the forestry business, we rarely see the last category, which is tree canopy loss greater than 15%. And here is the first overview of our West Hartford results. In 2010, we had 46% tree canopy. In 2023, we had 37%. Little confusing here, that's a gross change of minus 9%. The 9% means that we lost 9% of our tree land, but it doesn't refer to how much tree canopy we lost. So when you do the simple mathematics of dividing this, you'll come up with a 20.6% tree canopy loss for the period of 2010 to 2023. And there is no way to sugarcoat this information. It's serious and it is dramatic. Translated, because 20.6% doesn't mean too much to some people. Well, if you like to work in acres, it's 1,114 acres of land in West Hartford that was covered with trees is no longer covered with trees. Or if you'd prefer a tree count, that's 114,000 mature trees. By any stretch of the imagination, that's a lot of trees. And it is distributed across the board in West Hartford. We tend to think of southeast as being less forested areas. This call out snapshot here shows us exactly the opposite. Some of our highly forested areas in town lost just as much canopy, if not more, than our lower forested, which suggests and indeed quantifies an across the board, across town, significant decrease in tree canopy. What are our takeaways? Sorry, I'm looking at a little tiny one here, so I'm almost working from memory. This one is important. We did expect the loss. Let's be clear. We did not expect it to be of the magnitude that it is. We do have some positive information. Public land, and particularly managed public land in West Hartford, parks and schools did better than our private land. And in fact, private land did disproportionately poor. 80% of the parcels of land that are privately held in West Hartford lost dramatically more than the 20.6% that was the town average. And then I'll show you an example, and you can see all the blue numbers. This is actually a detail slide for a longer presentation, so I'm going to go through it quickly. But you can see this is a call out of how parks greatly outperformed. But this was rare. Schools also outperformed it. Thanks really to our management we had a resource replacement in place where we replaced trees that we lost over this time period. The private sector did not. And then if time, and I think I'm running out, Deb, so I'm going to go quick. There are multiple causes of it, and it's far too long to get into it. Suffice to say that our final report will look at these in much more detail. But we have aging neighborhoods, and the homes in our aging neighborhoods have fared much better than our trees have in those same neighborhoods. And we have a lot of aging neighborhoods, and we have a lot of aging trees. We did have a couple of storms, but storms have been a factor in New England weather for as long as there has been New England weather. It wasn't the storms that hurt the canopy as much as it was a concerted non-effort to replant after those events. And then, and again, this was time permitting, looking to the future. The solution is very, very simple. It is plant, plant, and plant more. The inventory project that Helen mentioned gives us a computerized blueprint for planning on public parcels, private parcels, businesses, where we can plant the right tree in the right place to begin to mitigate the tremendous loss that we've experienced in this 13-year period. And I will, as a final thing, we'll share. Reversing tree canopy loss is not a simple thing. We are really talking about if you can stop the bleeding in 5 years and start to tick the numbers up in 10 years, you are making fabulous progress because of the nature of the type of battle that you're facing out there. When you're losing aging trees, it doesn't typically reverse itself for 30 or 50 years after you lose all your aging trees. So for the town to step in and make a positive impact and course correct now is going to require my efforts, my opinion, and all of town effort to replant. And I'm certainly excited about being a part of that effort, and redoubling my efforts. I am confident and positive about the future of West Hartford's tree canopy, but I do think it's going to take an increase in awareness and an across the board pitching in for all of us to get behind the replanting initiatives. And with that, I shall close. And thank you all again for the opportunity to present. We can open it to questions.
Thank you very much. Very much appreciate this presentation. And I think we're all having a little bit of PTSD now thinking about those storms. I know that many of us lost trees, cars, and other items due to those storms. Do council members have questions? We'll start with the committee members.
Deb, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, goodness gracious. I don't know what's different, but thank you. That was a great presentation. So thank you so much for that, Bill. I really learned a lot. And what role has development played in this? Like, I know you probably can't tell me the percentage, but we've certainly had a lot of building and changes going on, in addition to the storms and natural loss of older trees. Thanks.
So the development, you have to break it down. This is a scientific study, and it quantifies what we had in 2010, and it goes to 2023. The majority of the recent influx of development that has happened in town was not covered for the most part. There was some slow development projects that occurred during the time period, and almost universally, when development projects occur, clear cutting occurs as part of the process of building a new development. And so some of that is going to be reflected in that. But that's why I think that the next 5 years are so difficult, because starting in 2023, we are losing a lot more trees. And it's not just storms, okay? It is residents and businesses cutting down healthy trees, right? There has been an attitudinal sea change among certain members of town where trees at one time were revered. They are now viewed as messy. They are viewed as expensive. They are viewed as a liability, okay? And it's particularly in a segment of new owners, from what we can determine. And one of the first things that they do when they come in is remove all of their old trees, because they feel that it's an insurance liability. And so we have an educational issue there. I'm sorry, Mary, I may not have completely answered your question, but I hope I got close.
No, that was terrific. I think it gives us all perspective that as we see changes come on board, to be more aware of the impact to the canopies. Not that we're not. I think, certainly our town planner and everything that we've seen with proposals does have a lot of replacement of the trees, which I'm very grateful for. Your point about the trees, though, gosh, I do notice that my neighborhood's an older one, and excuse me, pardon me, as a lot of the newer people have taken out some very large oaks and maples, and I've kept mine. I have not. And arborist folks come out and they said perfectly healthy, but I'm not of that newer generation. So, I can see that was a good explanation. I was wondering, but I would be curious as we fold into what's changed in 2024 and the Yukon property, for example, and the Trout Brook developments and things like that, to see how much that's doing with the canopy. Because I think your point about some of these trees are very, very old, maybe even 100 years old. And when we replace them with, I'll call them saplings, for lack of a better word, that's going to take years and years and years and years to create the canopies that have been displaced. So I think, I guess I'm taking away, caution as we go forward, and it's going to take time to replenish. But thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Fay. Any other questions? Councilor Walters?
Well, I just, thank you, and through you, I just found it very interesting that such a large proportion of existing property owners, as we've been discussing, have, I think did you say, what was the figure on that again?
So 80% of the private parcels of land, of property in West Hartford um, did not or beat, shall we say, the town average, and you don't want to beat that average. They exceeded it, all right? Only 20% of the properties posted a zero increase or a small positive gain. And that's really the goal, right? You do need, Mary's point is well taken, you do need the time. When you lose an oak, you lose, conservatively 125, but really up to 250 years of canopy growth. And you don't replace that with 3 dogwoods and 2 years, right? So that's where the science of other aspects of this rebuilding and replanting program in West Hartford come in, where we start to be able to assess what's on a school. A school, for example, can look like it's in fairly good condition until you run the numbers through a computer and you find out that it's a version of a nursing home for trees, and you have a disproportionate number of old, very old trees, a disproportionate number of old trees, and a shocking under inventory supply of very young trees and young trees. And you say, well, wait a minute, if this was our town population, we would be raising a fire alarm to fix it. It is happening with our tree population.
Okay. No, I find it, I mean, it goes back to people not replanting what they cut down in many of those established neighborhoods. And I think it's one thing for the town to go in and replace trees that are diseased or dead. But it's another thing for our residents to try to keep up with that as well. I personally have lost a couple trees, and I've always tried to replace them with something when it was feasible to do so. So I do understand how that's all happening. On the other end, I do think it is very important development-wise, if we are going to do it, as Mary had said, to make sure we're replanting. And even though they may not be full grown at the time, they, hopefully they will be. I mean, some of them are pretty slow growing, especially our natives, but hopefully we can at least replace what we're taking out.
And we do have the ability, the town has the ability to reassess on a 5-year basis, I believe, Helen, is what we're penciling out now. So that this is not a one and done type of solution. This is something that's going to be reviewed every 5 years. So this is, fingers crossed, this won't be the last time that I'll be making an appearance, but I hope the next time I have a little bit better news to share.
I do have one other question though, because psychologically, the 2011 storm made a huge impact on many of us. That was the period where I lost the most trees here on I have a tiny little parcel, and if everybody who has seen it, and I'm sure Manager Ledwith is going to laugh at me right now, knows that I have a very well vegetated plot of land in the middle of West Hartford. And I lost several things here. And I know a lot of people lost. And yes, weather does play a role every single year. But it seems to me that there might be like a few events that stand out. And to me, in my mind, 2011 was one of those. But in your mind, is that not really the case?
No, I in my mind, right, it is the failure to replant after that event And it's also coupled with the fact that there were two deforestation events in the time period studied. One was Alfred, which was the October storm, the ice storm in 2011. The other was Tropical Storm Isaias, right, where we also lost a significant amount of trees. Both of them were conflated with electrical outages, and trees got blamed for the outages. And here I'm speaking frankly, okay, as a resident, right, and they were blamed disproportionately because, and it wasn't our current utility company, but previous utility companies in the history of the state of Connecticut neglected to trim power line trees for 30 years, all right? And when those trees came down in severe weather events, but perhaps should not have been severe electrical outage events, they took the opportunity to blame their lack of preventive maintenance over 3 decades on a group of trees that hadn't done anything wrong except try to stay alive. So you cannot argue with the Yukon parking lot being filled literally with tractor trailers full of arboreal debris, trees. But when you look at the 22 square miles and you look at the 4,000 parcels of land, it's the chainsaws wielded by the arborists and your neighbors that are doing more damage than the incidental storm damage. Had we replanted there, right? And again, we can also see when we do these analysis of parcels and stuff, whether there's young trees there. That I showed you my house, okay? I lost 3 nearly dead hemlocks, okay? And then I killed 3 invasive trees and I had the town cart them away. You can send me a bill after the ice storm. But I have 21 new plantings on my property. I just have to spend time, or my property has to spend time, and they're the right trees. They're all primarily native trees, and they're growing, and they will more than double the canopy that I had at the time of that storm. And that's what I consider to be bad news, good news situation, where you have declining, a study that says, wow, 45 Middlebrook Road, declining tree canopy. Oh, but wait a minute, there's 21 or 22 new plantings there. And we even know what those new plantings are. They're all native trees. That's a good win for the town. And that's the goals of what TAG and the Town Forestry Group is trying to do through leisure services. Because there's a lot of public education that needs to be done.
Thank you.
agree.
And
Thank
this
you.
is such an excellent start for us with the public education. I think knowing, what has happened to our tree canopy over the last dozen years or so, and it seems pretty obvious how to fix it. At least there are some problems that we have in town where we're not really sure how to fix the problem, but this one seems like we know the answer. So we appreciate your coming and educating us, and I'm sure this is going to be a continuing conversation and lots of different arenas, whether it's through public works or any development projects that come before us, or leisure services, or a variety of different ideas through town. So thank you very, very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you all. I appreciate your interest in trees and in the town of West Hartford. And thank you for, we all do a fair amount of volunteer work here, except Helen and Rick. That is appreciated as somebody who has also given a fair amount of my time cheerfully to the town of West Hartford. So with that, I'm going to sign off, okay? And let
Very
you guys
much
get
appreciated.
back.
Thank you so much, Mr.
All
Gleason.
right. Take care. Right. Bill,
Thank
please,
you.
Deb. All right. Take care.
That was great.
All right, we are now going to move on to our library update, and I'll turn it over to Ms. Ermshire, and thank you for your patience this evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening. I'm so excited to tell you about what's going on in the library world. I want to start with the launching of our new Family Resource Center in the Children's Department. And it's hopefully up tomorrow or at the very latest at the end of this week. Section of the collection that features books for youth and family and the LGBTQIA+ experience.
You
In
know what? I'm
addition-
just going to interrupt you for a moment because I don't know if anyone else is having this issue, but you're a little broken up in your audio. So I don't know if you can come a little closer to your microphone.
Double check. Okay. All right, is this any better?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a little.
Okay, I'll try to continue. Let me know if it's not working.
Thank you.
So this new collection, in addition to physical materials, it has a list of resources that is on our website, and you can also take a QR code handout to access the resource list. Carol Waxman and the Children's Department worked with members of West Hartford Pride to create the collection, including the name, the contents, and the implementation of it. This new collection is funded by the West Hartford Library Foundation. And as I said, I think it should be up tomorrow or later this week. And we're very excited to provide this resource for our community. And while you are visiting the library and the Family Resource Center, you can also check out our traveling exhibit in the Noah Webster Gallery. The Historic Timeline of Connecticut's LGBTQ Community is a digital timeline and traveling exhibit that explores the history of Connecticut's LGBTQ population. The timeline was based upon the work of Richard Nelson and was further developed by CCSU 403 students. We have it on display through June 28th and have already received some great feedback. A patron told staff she loved the exhibit. She said she had lived through a lot of those moments, but to see it all laid out before her really made her glad to have been involved over the years with the good and the bad, and proud of how far we've come as a community. She said, "I love our town," and wanted to make sure the creators of the exhibition knew how great it was. And as you know, or as we all know, June is a busy but exciting month in West Hartford, and we've been having a blast attending all of the events going on around town. We were at the Celebrate West Hartford. We had a library booth a few weeks ago. For Juneteenth, one of our programs was postponed, but there is still time to catch it. Connecticut and Juneteenth, a presentation by historian John Mills, is now happening on Wednesday, June 25th at the Paxson Library. And this Saturday, we'll be at the Pride Festival Family Tent hosting crafts, talking about the library, and hoping we break the 15-week weekend read streak. Our summer reading is here with opportunities for all ages. We're incredibly busy at the library today with a lot of families in to get started on their summer reading and stock up for their summers. Our children's program for readers in grades K through 5 kicks off with a visit from the Poop Museum on Wednesday. They'll be over at the Town Hall Conference Center. And all summer, children are encouraged to read, log their books, attend programs, and receive prizes. Any books count, including ebooks, audiobooks, and books read to children. Our teen program is for readers in grades 6 through 12 and kicks off tonight. They're actually celebrating right now in Blueback Square, where teens can get their library card, learn about teen summer programs and volunteer opportunities, and find out how to enter our teen summer contests. And of course, we have our adult program that also launched today. You can get uplifted this summer with our summer reading challenge for adults. From today through August 31st, read books and complete activities in the summer reading categories and earn chances to win bi-weekly and grand prizes. Some of our categories this year are books with a red cover, books set in at least 2 different time periods, and books you choose based solely on the cover. And as always, you can check in with a library staff member for recommendations if you're one of the materials. And as we look ahead this summer, we have 2 big events that are becoming annual traditions for the library. First up is the Book It Children's Fun Run. This is happening on June 28th at 9:15 at Sterling Field. This is for ages 2 through 12 and features races that include a toddler dash, a quarter mile, and a 1 mile run. We'll also have a bouncy house and snacks, and it's a great activity for the whole family. And Bookworm Fest is coming, our annual celebration of all things adventure, fantasy, board games, live action role-playing, tabletop gaming, and more. This year's event takes place on July 26th from 10 to 4. Last year, we welcomed over 1,200 people into Noah Webster for the day, and we anticipate a big crowd again. Some of this year's activities include learn how to wield a sword from a real knight, jump into a tabletop adventure, have your face painted, peruse the wares of our many vendors, and so much more. All ages are welcome to join the fun. Dressing up is encouraged. If you notice me, I will be Queen of Library Landia and helping my team make sure all my royal subjects have a fun adventure. And then I'd like to close out with some great programs that we have coming up. First is Sundays in the Park with Sam. This is a live sketching meetup. You can enjoy the nature and beautiful weather with our studio coordinator and local artist, Sam Ferry. This is happening at Elizabeth Park on June 22nd. We have Who is Inez Temple? Rediscovering a West Hartford Figure. Local history librarian Brett will take us on a journey to rediscover the life of Inez Temple and her contributions to local and national history. This is on June 18th at the Noah Webster Meeting Room. For our Teen Bad Art competition, you can celebrate the Color Our World Summer Reading theme by making the worst art that you possibly can. Awards will be given for the bad, badder, and baddest submissions. This is for teens on June 25th at Noah Webster. And we're having tie-dye fun for kids in grades 1 through 5. Color your world with tie-dye, and children can also bring in their summer reading log for their midsummer check-in prize. This is happening July 21st at Bishop's Corner and July 23rd at Faxon. And finally, we have our Roly Poly Guacamole concert. Join us for a high-energy, interactive family concert. Roly Poly Guacamole's original tunes and covers are a perfect mix of funk, rock, and folk music for kids and grown-ups alike. This is on July 10th at Town Hall and is for all ages. And lastly, I just want to mention that last month's meeting, Councillor Fay asked me a question about the statewide delivery system for Connecticut libraries, and so I wanted to update all of you on that. In fiscal year 24, West Hartford loaned 64,064 items to non-residents across Connecticut. And West Hartford patrons also borrowed 51,707 items from other Connecticut libraries. And when those items are returned to a library that doesn't own them, the items are placed in the statewide delivery to return to their home location. The state also reimburses us when the number of items we loan out exceeds the number that we borrow from other libraries. Last year, this resulted in just over $13,000, and we're using that funding to upgrade our meeting room furniture as an example of how that benefits us. So with that, I'd like to conclude my report and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Ms. Fay, did you want to ask?
Oh, no.
About that?
I was just, thank you for answering that, because I was going to ask, but I appreciate that. That's amazing. That's a lot. Does that include the virtual things? I think the online loans too, or is that just books?
No, through you, Madam Chair, that is just books. We're actually, because of license agreements, we're not allowed to loan digital materials to other libraries. We can only loan them to West Hartford patrons.
Interesting. Thank you so much for the update. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And I do think it gives us just an idea of the scope of this program, that in total it's over 115,000 books that went back and forth between West Hartford and other libraries in Connecticut to benefit people who live here and people who live in other towns and get to borrow books from us. So that's it's just a good benchmark for us, because I don't think that any of us had any idea of, like, is it a couple hundred books? Is it a couple thousand books? But 115,000 is a lot. So that's a lot of work on the part of your staff as well. So thank you for that. Are there other questions? Mr. Walters?
Thank you. And through you, I just have a comment, and I just want to, I think there's a lot of folks out there that think of the library as just a place to get books. And, it floors me every time. Every month we have a meeting with just the magnitude of what our libraries have to offer. And, you know, it just, it amazes me. And I'm so grateful, to your leadership and to the libraries, you know, for just having so much for our residents to do. So it just, again, it always floors me. Thank you.
So much.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Thank you for that. And lots of excellent things coming up this summer. So thank you for being so creative and putting those together.
It's
All
really
right,
libraries are a godsend for mothers with young children. I still go to the library. I love the libraries, but with a young child, they're just unbelievable resource. So helpful, and it's wonderful. So thanks and great job.
Thank you.
great. All right. Are there any requests for future agenda items? And our next meeting is, let's see, our next meeting, I believe is going to be July 21st. That's what we're scheduled for right now. And
Yeah,
Mr.
I'll check
Leavitt?
with my team, Madam Chair, make sure we're not on vacation that week. Usually we'll take one meeting off
Yep.
during the summer. So I haven't had a chance to connect with
Yeah,
Laura and Helen.
that's fine. You can just, you know how to reach us,
Yep.
and we can work that out later. And if anybody has any agenda items to request, please just let me know. And without further ado, I will call the meeting, if there's no objection, call the meeting adjourned at 6:58 p.m. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Have a great
you.
night.
Bye-bye.